Member Sua'a Talofa lava.
Talofa lava, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity. Listen to the Minister, the Honourable Chester Burrows, in his opening statements to this particular debate. And I like the Minister. I appreciate the fact that we did have an opportunity to sit down and listen to his views on why he's driving this particular bill. And sadly, sir, I think he's being deceived by his government, and that he's made statements into this House, sir, that I do not believe and do not accept. You see, sir, when National first came into power, New Zealanders will recollect some of the many promises that this government made, promises that we now know many have not been kept. And people may remember the promise not to raise GST, the promise to create 170,000 jobs, for example, not kept. But there are a couple of statements, sir, that refer to this bill that I just want to have the House ponder on. The two particular statements made by the Prime Minister when he first came into government in 2008 in his Prime Ministerial statement. First statement is the promise that he would behave in a mana-enhancing manner. The second statement is the promise to protect New Zealand's most vulnerable communities. So both of those statements have not been kept. Evidence of that is this bill here before the House. This is one amongst many, many other bills, sir, that are contrary and contradict those very statements that the Prime Minister made when he set foot into this House as the Prime Minister of New Zealand. And in fact, sir, this bill, along with many other bills before it, actually compound the suffering and worsens the situation for the very vulnerable communities that the Prime Minister promised he would protect. In fact, sir, if we go back a ways, just reflecting on our welfare system was to provide a safety net for the very vulnerable communities that the Prime Minister spoke about in 2008 that he was going to protect. Our welfare system was to provide a safety net for the majority of New Zealanders who were not born into wealth or who were not fortunate to have $50 million in their bank account because they were able to win that through betting on the international foreign exchange markets. So our welfare system was to protect people and to give effect to some of the very basic human rights enshrined in international covenants. Rights such as a job, rights such as the fair, decent wages to support workers and their families, they have the right to be protected from unemployment. That's what our welfare system is all about. This bill, sir, is deliberately aimed at driving fear into the hearts and minds of the most vulnerable in our communities. It's to drive fear in the hearts and mind of the most vulnerable people in our communities, the people who rely on our welfare system because of unemployment, because of sickness, because a spouse left another spouse with children. For various reasons, sir, that's what the welfare system is about. And this government has deliberately and determinedly, since they have been in power since 2008, to try and remove that welfare system. And slowly, step by step, bit at a time, that's what they've done. We heard earlier today in question time how the Minister of Social Development prided herself in the fact that less and less people are now on our welfare system. Sure, it's a good thing. But here's another fact. Less than 50% of those people are in jobs. Less than 50% of those people off the welfare system are in jobs. What is their situation, sir? I can tell you. I know many of these families in our neck of the woods, and no doubt my colleagues and other MPs in this House will know families who are doing it tough because they're not into jobs and they fear going into that welfare office to try and get some support from our state. Sir, what's happening? They are reliant on church and community organisations providing them with food parcels. They are reliant on young sons and daughters who have been forced to go to Australia, earn a bit of money there through the jobs that are available there, and send it back here. They are putting pressure on their own relatives, sir, by sharing homes. Have you ever seen, Mr. Speaker, you know what I'm talking about when I say, have any of our members seen 4 or 5 families sharing a 3-bedroom house? I doubt very much whether any of the MPs on that side of the House understand the plight that many of ordinary New Zealanders are experiencing today. So this is not about fairness, as the Minister attempted to try and persuade us earlier. This is not about fairness. And as my colleague, Sue Moroney, rightly said, if this was about fairness, they would spend the same amount of energy and time trying to track down the tax fraud, the $6 billion amount of money that the Inland Revenue Department has reported goes missing as a result of tax fraud. Here they are leaving that $6 billion ticket alone. People, no doubt, who are close to this government, as we've seen in the last few weeks. But they are giving the full force of this government on a group of people. The Minister himself even admitted it was a small number of people that we're talking about. Yet they are putting the full force, full weight of this government to go after the small group of people that we're talking about. That's not about fairness, Mr. Speaker. That's about driving fear into the hearts and mind of the most vulnerable in our communities so that they stay away from the welfare system. And the fundamental reason why they would do that, sir, is because this government, through and through, do not believe in a welfare state. They do not believe in the role of the state, period. Sir, and so I get quite upset, sir, when they talk about fairness, because that does not translate insofar as communities that I represent, that you represent, many of our people here represent, does not translate to what our communities are wanting this government to hear from this government. Does not translate to the many promises that this government made. Only in 2011 they promised a brighter future, sir. This kind of legislation does not provide the brighter future that our communities want from government. Sir, this is a bad government. This is the worst government that I've ever seen or experienced. They make promises, sir, like you're giving away candy to kids. In 2008, sir, they promised my community, using some of our sports icons, that they would invest $6 million into one of our local schools. 2008, they made that promise. Today, we're still waiting for them to keep that promise. So this is the worst government. And I know that working class communities, the length and breadth of New Zealand, can't wait to see the back end of this government, sir, because they are taking New Zealand in the direction where only their friends benefit, but the rest of New Zealand do not. Sir, the other day, last night, sir, I was at Malaiola Hall, and we had a performance by the Taimua group, young people, young Catholics, all over the Auckland region. About 600 were in attendance. They put on a performance, sir, and the earnings from that performance, and it was an Easter performance based on the story of Easter. The earnings from that performance, sir, they will contribute to the Auckland City Mission. Why, sir? Because those young Catholics who vote know that this government is making things worse for not just Pacific communities, not just Māori communities, but the bulk of working class communities throughout New Zealand. That's why, sir, our communities have looked upon this government and the promises they made in 2008, and I can tell you, sir, this bill is a terrible piece of legislation which adds on to the many other pieces of legislation which are designed to drive fear and to worsen the struggles of ordinary working New Zealanders. And I hope, sir, come 20th of September, our communities turn out in full force and kick them out of government.
I call the Honourable